right now we have Spinney and Angélique Roy from Queen's University. Carling is the Ask Us reference assistant, and Angélique is the health sciences librarian at the Queen's University Library. And their presentation is entitled Beyond the Default, a starter kit for implementing database accessibility icons.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm going to get my screen shared, so just bear with me here. Okay, and Angélique, can you confirm that looks okay?
It looks great, Carly.
Okay, great. And I can hear you as well. We were having some tech issues earlier, but looks like everything's good to go.
Thankfully. Hello, everyone. It is great to be here with all of you today. My name is Angélique Roy, and my pronouns are she, her. I have light brown hair with bangs, a fair complexion, red lipstick, and I am wearing a black blazer and large earrings. I am a health sciences librarian at the Bracken Health Sciences Library at Queen's University.
And hi, everybody. My name is Carling Spinney, and my pronouns are she, her. I have dark brown hair, fair skin, I'm wearing glasses, and a blue and white striped shirt. I am the Ask Us reference assistant at Stauffer Library, Queen's University. As mentioned, our presentation is titled Beyond the Default, a starter kit for implementing database accessibility icons. As we get started, I also want to mention now that we will be sharing a starter kit at the end, and throughout the presentation, we'll point out some of the resources included in that guide. So for now, I'm going to pass it back to Angélique to get us started.
Thanks, Carly. Before we launch into the background of this initiative, we wanted to share our current end result, the public interface of the A to Z database webpage, which includes the icons.
Angélique,
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think it's your earrings that are hitting your microphone. And as an interpreter, it's really hard to hear you. Your voice is also very soft compared to Carly.
Thank you so much. Yes,
No
it's
problem. Sorry.
No, thank you so much. Lots of technical issues this morning, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So before we launch into the background of our initiative, we wanted to share our current end result, the public interface of the A to Z database webpage, which includes the icons beside each database entry and an icon legend with definitions. Our session will take you through the background for how implementing database accessibility icons came to be, and we will discuss our process, the pre-implementation steps taken, as well as implementation and our future directions. And finally, we'll wrap up by reviewing the starter kit resources. Next slide, please. So let's start with the background. What led us to this project? Next slide, please. On the screen, there is a photo of students walking past the 100-year-old Douglas Library on the Queen's campus. In late 2022, the Queen's University Library released its 2022 to 2025 strategic plan, which outlined 6 strategic directions aligned with the university. This is a statement from the strategic plan for priority 4.2, which seeks to assess the collection for the presence of and gaps in global perspectives and IEDIAA. In 2023, we will identify 2 areas of representational focus and the priority collections on which a diversity audit will be performed in 2024. We will create and release an action plan to ensure sustained commitment to inclusive collections in 2025. 9 members of library staff volunteered to facilitate this work of enhancing indigenization, equity, diversity, inclusion, anti-racism, and accessibility within our library collections. Next slide, please. During initial meetings, the group discussed the meaning of diversity in library collections, and from these conversations, it was decided to focus on accessibility functions of our video databases, with the goal of ensuring that all users can engage with materials. Although we are making it sound fairly easy and straightforward, this was not necessarily the case. The initial goals of the group to complete a diversity audit changed and evolved a lot during the first months, but this ultimately led us to the project we are sharing with you today. For this initiative, we understand accessibility to mean ensuring that persons with disabilities have equal access to information resources through improved discoverability within our website. We also understand disability to include a wide range of experiences and conditions that may be physical or mental, temporary or ongoing, visible or invisible. As such, we recognize that disability is experienced in diverse ways, and the consideration of multiple ways to represent content, in our case both textual and visual, can facilitate engagement with our community of users. Next slide, please. Now I will take you through the process of how we approached this project. Next slide, please. A first step was to conduct an environmental scan of the database icons used by our Collaborative Futures consortium partners. One thing we realized from the findings was that some libraries use text-based custom flags, while others use image-based resource icons. And we have included an example of these two different types of icons here. We also realized that while some institutions used icons to indicate video resources, video accessibility icons, for example, captions or transcripts, were not typically present. However, we also recognize that icons are by no means the only way for libraries to convey details about inclusive resources. There are many ways in which this is communicated to our users. Out of 16 Collaborative Futures institutions, excluding Queen's, 7 have no icons, 5 have text-based custom flags, 5 have image-based resource icons, and a couple institutions have both, and 2 institutions have icons for captions. Our project group chose to focus on relevant accessibility functions present within our video database collection, which we considered to be its own kind of diversity audit. To create an inventory of these functions within our video databases, a subgroup of 4 people was created with the goal of adding icons to the library's LibApps A to Z list. Next slide, please. Initially, the group's primary focus was on captions due to some of the other tasks that were part of our larger project map. But as the work continued, things shifted and progressed along the way. Once we started going into the databases and spot checking videos, it quickly became apparent that there was more nuance. For example, captions can be open or closed. If there are open captions present in a video, but they are not in the language you need, this is important information to know. Additionally, some videos allowed the captions to be customized by changing the background color, the size, and font. Some videos had transcripts, but these varied widely from static text to auto-scrolling with timestamps. We also ended up noting whether video player settings were available, since the ability to pause and adjust playback speed are also very helpful features for some people. On this slide is an example of a database, Caribbean Studies in Video, which contains closed captions, a video transcript, and additional playback settings such as speed and autoplay. Next slide, please. Our inventory was recorded in an Excel spreadsheet shown on the slide and consisted of spot checking the library's 45 video databases, rather than a comprehensive investigation. As such, we did not examine VPATs, voluntary product accessibility templates. The databases were assessed for various criteria, which also make up the Excel columns, which are the presence of captions, transcripts, language settings, display settings, vendor accessibility contacts, and additional comments were added where applicable. We would like to acknowledge our colleagues Michelle Chittenden, Coordinator of Library Accessibility Services and Research Librarian, and Tracy Weiss, Reference Assistant Engineering and Science, for their efforts and contributions to the environmental scan and video database inventory. It was great to work with and learn from them during this process. A templated version of this Excel spreadsheet will also be made available as part of our starter kit. Next slide, please. After completing our inventory, a subgroup of 2 people, Carling and myself, brainstormed potential text-based custom flags or image-based icons compatible in LibApps to be added to the database entries in our A to Z list. We chose to pursue visual accessibility icons, which is a gap we discovered in our environmental scan. Our considerations were based on the following. Visibility of the icons. These should be ever present and visible, and the images should be accompanied by alternative text. Recognizability, choosing icons that are universally or generally recognized. Positioning, where they will appear in the database entry for visibility. And color, choosing high contrast colors. Walls of text are not engaging for a variety of disability experiences and learning styles, so we felt image-based icons would provide multiple ways for users to access and interact with content. For example, image-based icons may be helpful for people with cognitive, neurodevelopmental, and learning disabilities. Visual icons can support learning new skills, understanding vocabulary, and following instructions. Icons can also simplify complex information, making it easier to understand and aid in recall. Next slide, please. At this stage, we revisited the 45 databases in our inventory to determine which icons should be created and then applied to our website. We decided upon 5 functions for which icons could be applied moving forward. These include captioned video. This is applied when a textual description of the words spoken, the speaker of the words, and relevant sounds is present and includes any type of captions, open or closed, or subtitles. Other languages available refers to languages other than English. Transcript available. This is a textual representation of the audio featured within a video. Transcripts may be present as auto-scrolling or static text. Described video refers to narration of important visual elements through audio description. And video settings available, when the video player has customizable settings and playback features such as sizing, fonts, colors, playback speed, or skip buttons. We applied a one or more philosophy, so any of the 5 icons listed would be applied if some or all database content included that function. For example, if a database had content in at least one language other than English, we applied the other languages available icon to it. We decided that even the presence of at least one aspect of a particular icon category could be helpful to someone, and to let our users decide for themselves what would be beneficial for their individual needs and preferences. Next slide, please. This is a snapshot of our updated Excel spreadsheet inventory, where we added a column for icons to apply and noted any and all functions available within the database. Pictured here, for example, Access Physiotherapy includes content with captions, transcripts, content in other languages, and display and navigation settings. And now I'm going to pass it over to Carling as we move into the pre-implementation phase.
So leading up to the actual implementation of the icons, it required collaboration with several of our colleagues to plan ahead. So I'll briefly go over what that involved. We worked with several staff members, including the web development team lead, Paul, who helped us with the Google material icons, as well as the metadata and information resources management technician, Diane, and 2 metadata and discovery librarians, Eva and Megan. They assigned the icons to each database in LibApps, and they're currently working on adding corresponding filters, which we'll discuss a little bit later. From what they tell us, it was a very straightforward and easy process to add the icons. So thank you to Paul, Megan, Eva, and Diane for helping us make this happen. In terms of selecting the icon images, we use Google Fonts Material Icons, which is freely available online. This is a preferred resource for our website content, so this made our selection pretty straightforward. These are the icons we chose to use. Describe video, represented by DV. Captioned video. We used the closed captions icon since this is widely known, but we did use this to indicate any kind of captions. Other languages, which is represented by multiple characters. And really what we mean here are languages other than English, which we should probably rename multiple languages instead. That would be a more unbiased name. So this was a learning moment for us and part of that post-reflection process. And we'll be sharing a few more of those learning moments today. The next category is transcripts, represented by a text document icon. And then finally, the video settings available icon is pictured in the screenshot to the left, represented by a play button with the settings cogwheel. So as pictured here, Google Material Icons have various download settings available. You can customize the size, color, which may be helpful for institutional visual identity guidelines, and file type. So this is how we created the icons that were added to LibApps. And the links to these icons will be part of our starter kit, just so you're aware. Before the addition of these accessibility icons, there were already a few pre-existing icons present on the A to Z database page. And these included alumni resources, open access, and Canadian resource icons. Initially, we wanted all of the accessibility icons to be black and white for the highest contrast possible, but these pre-existing icons were actually in the Queen's yellow on a white background. And I've done a mock-up here to show an example of that. Yellow and white are a notoriously difficult color combination, and when we tested it against WCAG standards, it did not meet color contrast ratio requirements. So in discussing with our colleagues, we found a good solution by changing all icons to the Queen's blue, which is quite a dark blue and was very high contrast and easily met WCAG to the AAA standard. And I share this story to illustrate the positive ripple effect initiatives like this can have. Once you begin a project, you never know what else you're going to uncover along the way and change for the better. Okay, moving into the actual implementation, we're going to share the steps our colleagues took to actually add the icons in LibApps. For those of you who regularly use and interact with the A to Z list on the back end, this will likely be familiar. However, we wanted to give everyone a quick idea of what's involved, regardless of your role, just to show that this is very possible to implement. Before icons can be applied to specific databases, they first need to be uploaded as assets. Once that's done, the next step would be to search individual database names. Once the database you need is found, you select the editing option from the actions column. For example, this is the Gale database page in edit mode. There's a drop-down menu to assign resource icons, and you can select multiple icons as needed, and then save. And just a quick note that the icons we used for this project aren't visible in the screenshot, they're just a bit further down. So our colleague Diane used the simplified spreadsheet that we had sent, which listed all 45 video databases and the icons that needed to be assigned to each, and she applied the icons in this way. Part of our starter kit will also include some links to relevant SpringShare documentation in case that's helpful. On the public-facing side, our A to Z webpage shows the database name with the relevant icons alongside it. There is alternative text for each icon, and descriptions are also displayed in the icon legend as well. I also want to note that we have done AT, or assistive technology testing, and we found that screen readers are actually skipping over the icons. So this means that users who rely on screen readers wouldn't know these icons exist. We've submitted a ticket to SpringShare. As of yet, we have not heard anything. This does limit the icon's usefulness to patrons using screen readers, particularly when considering icons such as describe video, which are intended for users who are blind or low vision. And these results also underline the importance of adding corresponding filters, which we'll speak more about shortly, since the filters do work with screen readers. So this was another learning moment for us that we want to share with you. I think this is an example where we may have relied too heavily on SpringShare's claim of accessibility, and particularly the ability to add alt text for the icons. But this doesn't always align with real-world application or use. In other words, simply meeting guidelines and checklists does not necessarily equate to being fully accessible. This isn't to downplay the positive impact the icons could have for many users who experience various kinds of disabilities. But it's an important reminder that grounding this work in specific use cases and testing, rather than a vague, generalized concept of accessibility, will result in more meaningful changes. Continuing on with the public interface, I also wanted to mention that the accessibility icons are embedded in LibGuides, wherever video databases are linked. This is automatically done once the icons are added on the back end, so this is another great way to make a positive change in multiple places at once. Okay, now let's shift over to future directions and our plans moving forward. The most important and most immediate goal we have to build on this project is related to the database filters. We are currently in the process of adding corresponding drop-down filters for the accessibility icons. For example, selecting the type drop-down menu would allow users to select not only audio-video databases, but also categories like describe video or other languages to immediately filter down resources that would be most helpful to them. Part of this filtering will include all icons in the legend being hyperlinked to provide another access point for people to discover. This requires some custom coding as it's not something that is built into the legend by SpringShare. The filters will also be extremely helpful in addressing the issue of screen readers skipping over icons just while we wait for SpringShare to update us. Additionally, hyperlinking the icon legend will likely be quite intuitive for many users and improves overall usability. These sorts of conversations about usability and accessibility have also sparked other discussions about how we convey accessibility information to users. For example, there are several other projects underway related to accessible metadata and representing this information directly in Omni as facets for patrons to use. This is yet another example of how one seemingly small change can actually influence all sorts of other positive changes. So we're excited to see where this goes. Additional plans and discussions we've had relate to the ongoing maintenance of this initiative. Our strategic priority working group won't exist forever, so what happens when future video database subscriptions are purchased? And this also leads into broader discussions about accessibility and acquisitions workflows. For example, how can we embed greater accessibility awareness into purchase decisions? So these are some of the questions we're working through. I also want to make clear that even incremental change is good. We realize, and I think we've conveyed through the presentation, that we're not going to get this perfect right away, but that won't stop us from trying and learning and trying again. And just before we wrap up, I'm going to share the starter kit with you, which will hopefully give you a head start if you'd like to implement something similar at your institution. You can find the resources listed under our session in the program on the conference website. First, we have an Excel template. I'll zoom in a bit here. So this template is for the purpose of recording all your video databases and which accessibility functions they have. We've included the categories we used for this project, but please adapt it however you like. And there's another tab in the document as well that is meant to record the database name and all the icons that need to be applied to it. And this will be what your system staff need to add the icons and libapps. We're also sharing a document that lists the icon categories we used, the definitions for each, and links to the Google material icons. And this document does also include some scope background notes in case that's helpful. And it also has some SpringShare documentation links. And this is available in PDF and in Word, just in case people have preferences. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Carly and Angélique. We have 2 minutes and we do have one question in the Q&A section. So Katie is asking about the other languages, asking if it's used for both dubbing and closed captioning or if you distinguish between the two.
We did not distinguish between the two, so we applied the categories broadly. We would have loved to be able to convey so much more nuance and all those details for each of the categories, but we sort of realized that, at least for now, that wasn't going to be possible. But that's not to say that we can't build on that and hopefully find ways to add more nuance so that users know what we're trying to convey and easily find what is most useful for them.
Great. And we do have a couple of more questions. I think we've run out of time, but if it's possible for you to answer them in the Q&A box, I'm sure that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah,
So
happy to do that.
Yeah, great. Okay. Thank you for a wonderful presentation.